Hola queridas y queridos, mi nombre es Oscar Adame, soy editor de WARP y hoy vengo a presentarles una entrevista con Steven Van Zandt, también conocido como Little Steven. Little Steven es uno de los guitarristas y uno de los instrumentistas que forjó la industria del rock dentro de los Estados Unidos. Como parte y miembro de The E Street Band, él también ayudó a componer y a poner en la instrumentación a varios de los discos más influyentes del rock estadounidense, junto con figuras como Bruce Springsteen, sobre todo. Él ahora mismo está promoviendo un disco de covers a The Beatles que realizó dentro del legendario The Cavern, el escenario dentro del cual empezaron a tocar en Liverpool los cuatro músicos más famosos e influyentes en la historia de la música rock pop. Sin embargo, Steven es tal vez más famoso y más recordado dentro de la cultura pop por haber sido la figura en la cual se basó David Chase para formar al personaje de Tony Soprano. Él quería que Steven protagonizara de Sopranos. Sin embargo, los productores optaron por tener a un actor más experimentado y le dieron en su lugar a Steven, a un personaje que aún así es muy querido por los fans, la mano derecha del protagonista de Sopranos, Silvio Dante. Y sobre todo esto, platicamos con Steven en una entrevista bastante íntima en la cual se mostró muy alegre en relación a hacer una retrospectiva a su carrera y compartir su amor por los cuatro fabulosos de Liverpool. Wow, it's very nice to talk to you, Steve. I know that you are like promoting this record of a live show that you made on the Cavern, right? This legendary place where the Beatles start to play. And I know that you are pretty connected to them. I have heard a lot of radio shows about you naming them like the best rock band in the world and all that kind of stuff. So I want to know a little bit about the human experience, right? Like, how did you feel getting this opportunity to play where everything started, where your passion also started?
Yeah, it was really a thrill and a long time coming, really. It was one of those things that when you're a kid, it seems so far away, and such a miracle if you can maybe find a way to make a living playing rock and roll, because when I started, it wasn't really a legitimate business yet. Sure. It wasn't really a legitimate business until the 70s. In the 60s, it was the Wild West. It was just crazy. Everybody's making up the rules as they go along.
Sure.
And the Beatles, they were the first in many ways. So they literally were making it up as they went. But at the same time, we discovered the Beatles about halfway through their career. They had been, together really end of '57, and were gone in '69. So we discovered them in '64, and at that point they were extremely good. They were very sophisticated. We'd never seen anything like that, in our lives, because there wasn't that many bands. There were singing groups, like doo-wop groups. There was instrumental groups, but there wasn't really that many bands that sang and played, and so it was something very special. But I always say, it's important to have the yin and the yang, the two sides of the story, because the Beatles come and they're extremely sophisticated and they're perfect. Their harmony is perfect. The hair is perfect. The clothes are perfect, So you could look at them and say, wow, man, this is a whole new world, But you didn't think I could maybe do that. It was a little too good, too sophisticated, But they revealed this nice, interesting new world, But 4 months later, the Rolling Stones come.
Uh-huh.
And so they were more casual, they didn't have the perfect hair except for Brian Jones.
Yeah.
They wore whatever they felt like, they were like the first punk band, and no harmony at all, and so they made it look easier than it was, So the way I like to put it is the Beatles revealed this whole new world to us, and the Rolling Stones invited us in. You know, so I think they were equally important that way. But the Beatles led the way in almost every single way. I mean, you know, evolving each album one after the other, which they don't get enough credit for. You know, people take that for granted now. You know that real artists, you know, each album needs to evolve in some kind of way, grow in some kind of way. You know, that was a new idea. That, you know, the records before the Beatles did not do that. If you had a hit record, your job was to have a second hit record that was exactly like the first one, you know, as close to it as you could, you know. And they changed that. They changed that, and everybody had to follow them, you know. The Stones would follow them, the Who, the Kinks, you know, all the important bands knew they had to, you know, they had to grow each album, and that was a new idea. So the Beatles led the way, you know, and you know, to eventually get to their hometown. I also go to the university there, and I do a master class every time we're in Liverpool. You know, I love talking to the kids about you know, songwriting, producing, whatever. But it's a very special town to me, and always will be. Yeah, Liverpool.
Great. Well, you said at the beginning of this answer that it was like a dream come true, right, from the childhood, and it was like, oh, this is so far away from me, right, at first. But well, when you played this gig, you were already playing in stadiums. You were already like used to it, right? Like that is the thing that seems far away for a lot of people. I want to know, like, well, it's really obvious why this gig was special for you, especially. But I want to know, like, did you make something to get in there? It was like an objective for you. It was something that you really wanted to make, and that you make it happen.
No, I mean, it really just it was very spontaneous. To tell you the truth, you know, just a week before we were going to play Liverpool. You know, the idea came to me because I had read, you know, reading about the Beatles' early years. They did these lunchtime shows. You know, people would take their lunch in the local shops, bring their lunch to the cavern, and the Beatles would play for half an hour. You know,
Sure.
it's a crazy thing, right? I mean, you know, when you think about it, it's really cool. I mean, you know, it's an amazing thing that happened. Anyway, so the week before the Liverpool gig, you know, I said to my tour manager, I said, call him up at the cavern, tell him we're playing Liverpool Saturday night, and see if we could do a lunchtime set the way the Beatles used to do, you know. And you know, because it's a small little room. There's two rooms there, actually, a bigger room and a smaller room. I wanted to play the smaller room because that's the one with the arches over the stage that I had seen in the only Beatle film that was taken at the cavern, you know, when it was only one room.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wanted to play that small room and do a lunchtime set, and they said, sure, come on in. And so we just barely fit the rhythm section on the stage because it's small, you know. And we put the horns and the girls in the hallway, and you know, we managed to do it, you know.
And how did you feel in there? I want to know a little bit about the experience of the atmosphere. I know that it is a special. It has a special place for you in your heart. That place. And I want to know, like, how was your impression of meeting that scenario and have the opportunity to play there? Does it smells? How did you feel in there?
Well, you know, it's small. It's a small room. I think I don't know how many people fit in there. Maybe 250, maybe 300 people. That's it. You know, most people play the bigger room there in the cavern, which is I think 500-600 people.
Yeah.
But I wanted to play this. I wanted to play the room that reminded me of the old, the old one. The main thing was, you wanted to make a good impression. You wanted to make sure you lived up to the Beatles songs. No matter how many times you hear these songs, and believe me, I've heard them hundreds and maybe thousands of times. It's different when you play them. You get a different understanding of the song when you actually play it and analyze the parts. Because we're trying to do some complicated songs. All you need is love is complicated, and so we had the string parts and the horn parts, and we had the animals on Good Morning, Good Morning, whatever. We tried to represent those songs as well as we could. So that's the first thing that occurs to you. You're like, you want to do a Beatles tribute, but it better be pretty good, man. You better bring your A game. You better
not mess up with them. So
you better rise to the occasion. You know what I mean? You don't want to embarrass yourself. You don't want to, and you don't want to insult your heroes. By doing something that's anything less than really good. So luckily I had the greatest band in the world. I mean, this band is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we were able to learn the songs in just 4 or 5 days on the bus. And so it worked out. It worked out nicely.
One of the quotes that I have that of you that have made the most impression of me is one that you say about preparing your character Silvio for the Sopranos. You say that you visualize Silvio as being this mob that have a nostalgic feeling throughout the golden age of mafia. And now that we are talking about an exercise on nostalgia, I want to know, are you hearing me? I was saying that one of the quotes that
go back to are they recording again? Did you record again?
Yeah, I'm recording everything.
Hello?
Thank you very much. You say that one of the things that makes you form the character of Silvio was thinking that he was pretty nostalgic about the golden age of mob, right?
Right.
Being that you are a really special rock star that have been in the industry since the beginning, really putting the bricks on this movement, and being that at the end of the 90s rock music was not really in a good shape. I want to know, do you think that there's a true in that part of Silvio that also resonates with you as a rock star, as a musician that was seeing what has been happening to the industry?
I think I understand. Are you saying that the industry is not what it used to be? It's changing, and is that what you're asking about? I think that's what you're saying. I still use the 60s as my standards. I'm still trying to reach the standards that were set in the 60s, which I consider to be a Renaissance period, and that'll never change for me. Rock and roll has now gone from the mainstream back to being a cult, okay, which we started as a cult in the 50s, and then from around 60s, mid 60s until the mid 90s, was the rock era. And that was rock ruled the world, and now we're back to being a cult, pretty much like we were in 1954, 55, when Bill Haley had the first hit, and Elvis Presley then popularized, what Little Richard was already doing, and Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry. we're kind of back. We're back to being a cult again, and maybe that's where we belong. You know, maybe we weren't meant to be, you know, the top of the business. But I think rock and roll will always be special and be important. We're still the biggest thing live. If you go out to see a concert, rock and roll still rules the live shows. I mean, not just the E Street Band, but Rolling Stone, you know, and U2 and Bon Jovi and AC/DC, and you know, we still have the biggest, you know, Foo Fighters, Green Day. You know, we still have the biggest audiences live, and I think that's because it's different. It's an art form that needs to be seen live. You know, video doesn't really capture it. It's not capturing the same experience as it is live. So
Their wholeness.
I think that will always be true. It's more of a challenge now to make a living especially for young bands. You know, it's harder than ever. But you know, that's why I have my radio show and my radio network. You know, to help new bands. We've played over 1,000 new bands in the last 20 years. So 1,000. You know, so we're always trying to help out whenever we can. But it's harder now. It's harder now. And but artistically, the 60s for me was a peak, and I'm always trying to reach that, you know, reach up to that standard. You know?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, I just want to close this interview with a fun question. I'm a very big fan of the Sopranos, and well, at the end, everyone just talk about like if Tony dies or not, right? But we tend to forget also that Silvio is in a limbo. Also, he's quite not living, he's not quite dead. I want to know your perspective. What do you think that happened to your character, to Silvio?
Well, my character was in a coma, and you know, if he's needed for a sequel, he'll come out of the coma. I promise you that. You know, if there's a reason to come out. But other than that, you know, as I always say, when people ask me how did The Sopranos end, I always say the same thing. The director yelled cut, and the actors went home. That's how The Sopranos ended.
That's incredible. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to talk to you. You're a great guy, and I appreciate very much your time.
Thank you. I hope to see you soon in person. I hope.
Yeah, I hope that too. Bye-bye.
All right, my friend. Bye.